Hi guys, today I want to give my 2 cents about the elephant in the room, something older Nikki players saw coming as soon as the 2.0 banner dropped. For context, I'm not one of those older players. I joined the franchise through Infinity Nikki, and even though I tried the previous games, they were too mobile focused for me. Still, from what I've seen in discussions, many veteran players agree that the franchise has struggled with handling diversity in a respectful way. And now there's concern that the same issues may show up again in the 2.0 outfits and story. It's too early to jump to conclusions, but I think we have a great opportunity to talk about something that affects all media representation, and Infinity Nikki is no exception. This topic is not new to me. I have a PhD in sociology, not specifically in this subfield, but enough familiarity to bring in some academic discussions that resonate with the uncertainty players feel when it comes to world building using elements from marginalized cultures. So, where do I stand? First of all, I don't think we should give in to a pure market logic of accepting questionable representation, so we have any representation at all. Of course, companies will prioritize profit and cut costs by default, but this action does not apply regardless of context. What I mean by that is, companies cut and raise costs if they foresee bigger or lower costs in the future as well. So if they see that their player base is vocal about certain issues, for them a consultant dedicated to that matter alone is as valuable as a consumer researcher. After all, what makes an outfit appealing or not appealing for that audience is how respectfully they handle the elements used. So as you can see, respect and diversity can be valuable assets for a company if that's what their audience is looking for. No wonder that most of the current tensions regarding politics in games center on the audience desires, with one side being vocal about disregarding the diversity as a valuable element for a game, while the other side wants it. So as someone who cherishes games that consider social topics in their gameplay or narrative, I think the best course of action is being very vocal about the issues presented. That's what we as players and consumers can do, because the other option would be staying silent and undistinguishable from the other side of the matter that despises the so-called woke stuff. This action creates a dilemma for the company: deal with the cost of adapting to this community need, or give up entirely for a safer bet. It is important to emphasize the community aspect of it, because if diversity and sensible representation are not concerns for the common player, it will only be a marketing strategy to pipeline other groups and can be dismissed as soon as they gain more retainability. But if the community at its core already cherishes these values, it's more profitable to cater to their player base instead of dropping the project in hopes of gaining another player profile. For a business, it is always less costly to keep its older players than to get new ones. With that being said, I think we can deal objectively with the questions at hand. To do that, ironically, the question is to be dislocated from how to use foreign elements in a fantasy-themed game to what kind of place do these elements have in the overall narrative? How do the main characters address these elements? And how well included are they in the gameplay? Usually, good representation of marginalized communities need to answer one or all of these issues, considering the nature of the project. So let's go deeper into these three topics so we can have a better understanding. The first one is about how these elements are played out in the story. And that comes down to what kind of importance they should and should not have. Both extremes of this issue can alienate the player base from the elements presented. If you exaggerate their importance, it will disconnect from the main narrative of the game and looks forced. This happens a lot in media where LGBT or racial issues are centralized unnecessarily, giving them an artificial tone. If these groups are not the main object of the story, they should be normalized as part of the world. If these elements are central to understanding a struggle, then some storytelling strategy needs to be put in place. The best way is to create more dimensional characters. For example, marginalized characters that are not necessarily good or in a passive position, or characters in positions of power that empathize with the issue but have to learn to be at the sidelines. When it comes to world building, the same dimensional contrast needs to be in place. A marginalized space needs to be diverse. Marginalized groups are not homogeneous and can have different perspectives on the matter, and can inhabit the world in different ways even while being part of the same group. This includes tensions inside the group as well as alliances based not only on their social condition, but also their personal interests and political motives. The second aspect of the matter is very important for Infinity Nikki, as we dive into 2.0. Since the game is built upon Nikki's journey as the main protagonist, we as the player base will be following her steps as the way she builds her relations in the new area. What worries me a bit, from what we can see in the 1.0 main quest, is that the story progresses with Nikki helping side characters through investigating something or talking with someone like a good mediator. The issue with that is how easily it can fall into the white savior situation, and even though you can change Nikki's skin to darker tones, her brand image is of a light-skinned girl, so it's hard not to think about the problematic aspects of the story pacing considering that matter. So how do we overcome this? I'm no way capable of giving a final solution to the matter, but I also don't want to fall into empty criticism that can be equally damaging. So I will propose some alternatives, but take them with a grain of salt. Nick is going to enter this new region in hopes of finding a new miracle outfit to stop her own doomsday that happened in different timelines. In order to do that, she needs to get to know the area in its social and natural aspects, since miracle outfits come from bursts of inspiration built along the way. I really like how in the old opening Dada finds Nikki and briefly guides her through. Something similar could happen with Nikki being introduced to this new region by an inhabitant with a similar role to Dada. Perhaps some remarks could be made expressing the differences of the guilds. At first we would observe a harmonious scenario that would slowly be met with different tensions along the way. Nikki's past experiences shouldn't be scratched just because she's in a new area. Now she's a skilled stylist in Wishfield, which gives the opportunity for different outfits, mixing different elements. Syncretism is a concept usually used in religious contexts, but essentially it refers to when different cultures blend and create something new. I believe that if this concept is used for clothes design, it would be very interesting without falling to the cultural appropriation issue. Perhaps with an inhabitant friend helping her in the process, or her styling being inspired by one of the stylists in the region. Also, the different stylist factions would play an important role, because Nikki would need to learn different styles and understand the tensions better in the region. The last element that needs to be addressed is how these elements will be handled in the gameplay. I feel that we have a bad and a good example in the franchise. Obviously, tags that put foreign elements as sexy without any visual reason or primitive are extremes that should be avoided. But the Dungeon Island update gives me confidence that they have the blueprint to deal with non-Western cultures, even non-Chinese ones, by introducing different gameplay aspects in a respectful and engaging manner. Just like in Dungeon Island where we were introduced to a new ability that represents the region, we now have the Archer ability in the 2.0 banner, which also brings non-Western elements in a respectful and badass way, if you ask me. If you listen until here, give it a like and think about subscribing.